Hi, Bashi here with Saunders Speech and Voice. Today I wanted to talk to you about light vocal weight. So when we're thinking about voice feminization, there's a couple of big kind of bassy notes that we're looking to lift and lighten in the voice. One is resonance, thinking about making a smaller resonating space for a brighter sound. The difference between something like this and something like this is completely resonance based. What we're going to talk about today is different, though. We're talking about vocal weight. The difference between something like this and something like this that's a lot breathier and lighter. So what vocal weight refers to is how much of the vocal cord mass is making contact during the vibratory cycle, or how much pressure the vocal cords are using to come together, as well as the amount of time that they kind of spend apart while they're vibrating. So we're going for a more open quotient sound, where the quotient or the proportion of time that the vocal cords spend apart during the vibratory cycle is higher, meaning there's a lot more space for air to move through during the vibratory cycle. A great way to kind of think about this spectrum goes from maximally breathy and light, a very high open quotient sound with a high amount of free airflow and just the edges of the vocal cords coming together, versus a very pressed and heavy sound where there's a lot more vocal cord contact. That might sound on a spectrum like this. So inherently there is a volume change, a very, very breathy, super air-focused sound with a high open quotient is inherently going to be softer in volume, and a very heavy vocal weight sound is going to be a bit louder in volume. There's a lot of different ways that we can access this lightened vocal weight. Something that really helps, especially for voice feminization, is this idea of getting the vocal cords in stretch. The more kind of stretched out they are, the easier it is to have less of the mass come together at midline when the vocal cords are vibrating. So the way we do that is pitching up a little bit. Now, higher pitch isn't the most important part of feminized voice, but for our purposes here, it's going to allow us to get a lighter vocal weight just by getting those vocal cords stretched out and thinning out the actual mass of the vocal cords themselves. So a great place to start, just to kind of feel that lighter, airier flow, is with a princess sigh like this. Now, a lot of this sound and this free flow of air really relies on your chest and belly being relaxed. Your lungs aren't a muscle. They're kind of at the mercy of your rib cage and your diaphragm to move air in and out of them. So if you have a lot of tension in your chest or in your belly, or if posturally you're kind of hunched over and your diaphragm is constricted in some way, it's going to affect that airflow. I heard and felt a little bit of that in my princess side just a moment ago, where I could feel a little bit of tension and kind of this wavering. So a great thing to do, just generally, and especially when voice training, is a little bit of engagement with parasympathetic breathing, or breathing that engages the part of your nervous system that helps calm your body. I really like 2-to-1 breathing for this. So breathing out for about twice as long as you breathed in. So for example, if I breathe in through my nose for about 3 seconds, I'll try to breathe out through my mouth for about 6 seconds. This is going to help relax my body, calm my nervous system. So I'm going to do 2 or 3 breaths like that. Breathing through pursed lips can be helpful because it slows down that rate of airspeed out. Just with 2 breaths, I can feel the muscles in my jaw relaxing, the muscles in my shoulder relaxing. I'm a little bit more prepared to engage with that relaxed, airy flow of air in the princess sigh. A lot easier, a lot meltier. So there's a big difference between and the pitch, the resonance, all the same. The big difference there is that vocal weight. So another question is, how do I get more in control of that lightened vocal weight? And so much of this is taking time and care to retrain your system. If you are an AMAB person, you've likely been speaking with a vocal cord configuration that's really efficient. It doesn't let a lot of free air through. But we are going for texture and vibes and feeling to the voice with this lighter texture. It's not necessarily super efficient. So you might feel your body be like, what are we doing with all of this air? We're wasting it. Luckily, air is free for now. We're wanting to use it just for the sake of texture and this lightening of a quality of our voice. So it takes some time to recalibrate your system to just let it flow. Sometimes a hand on the chest and a hand on the belly to tune into any secret spots where you might be hiding tension can be really helpful. Just feeling that gradual meltdown. A more structured exercise, other than the princess sigh, is a flow phonation exercise. So I like to use a finger for physical feedback, like you're blowing out a candle. And first things first, just draw your attention to that sensation on your fingertip. What do you notice? Is the air cold? Is it warm? Is it a really fast jet of air? Generally, what do you feel around it? The next thing you'll do is pick a pitch, and we're going to get that air flowing and set a tone to it. So a great pitch for most folks is about A3 or 220 hertz. So I'm going to get the air going first. The goal here is to keep that output, that physical feedback on the finger, that amount of airflow essentially the same, just while adding a tone to it. We want to avoid tension or squeezing, like you would get with a whisper. A whisper is a sound that just comes from tension and constriction in your vocal tract. Your vocal cords aren't actually vibrating or engaged with it. We're wanting to engage the vocal cords just with a lot of free air moving by, not by tensing or constricting. It's a really common tension pattern that a lot of folks fall into. So if you notice that you're getting a little tense there, sometimes doing like a Victorian pearl clutch gasp, or like they told you not to touch the fajitas because they're hot when they came out, but you touched them anyway and you burned your hand, type gasp can open up that lower part of the vocal tract. So we're just going for maximum airflow there, keeping things really relaxed at a steady tone. When that's feeling good, we can start thinking about different vowel shapes. So because you're going to be changing the shape of your vocal tract, you might need a different feedback mechanism. Your lips are narrow, shooting a jet of air out. If you're switching to a different vowel sound, you might want to have a larger feedback mechanism. So I like a hand kind of like you're doing like a breath check or trying to fog up a mirror. So you might go, feeling that warm spread of air. The goal here being keeping that consistent, steady airflow and a nice stable note. From there, you can move on to chunks of the rainbow passage. Ooh, and the sunlight. Keeping things on monotone can be helpful just for gaining that stability and reducing variables so you can really focus on airflow. If the who is tricky, sometimes a princess sigh. When the sunlight strikes raindrops in the air, they. Just keeping things really nice and light and airy. You might be thinking, that's so soft in volume. I won't be able to be heard like that, or, oh, I'm running out of air so quickly. All of those are valid concerns. What we're learning now is just how to create data points for your brain and body connection to feel confident and in control with a different vibratory pattern than you might be used to for your vocal cords. One that allows a lot more air through, has a generally lighter texture, so you can turn something like, "Hi, how are you?" into, "Hi, how are you?" where the resonance space is generally the same, but there's a lot lighter of a vocal quality to it.